Hello and welcome to the special live MLB Hotstove update episode of the Big Rican on Sports podcast. I am your host. I am the Big Rican. And if I'm talking baseball and it's not just the Mets, you know who's here. Alex from Row 7, Tampa Tones from Cardboards and Cracker Jacks, and the Wednesday, is it always Wednesday night you do the Times Q show?
Yes, sir. The holidays were a little bit of a shakeup, but yeah, when it's non-holidays, Wednesday nights at 7 Central.
And again, thank you for having me on a couple of times. Alex, I know you and I are going to do a little playoff preview for the NFL. But gentlemen, I saw a calendar today. We are 42 days from pitchers and catchers. Wow. Doesn't that just make the day that much better?
It brings a smile to my face.
Mine too. So I don't know if you guys heard when I said we were going to do this episode, but now not only are we on Facebook and YouTube, we're on Periscope on Twitter now too. So hopefully we'll have some comments with it. I see somebody's watching already. It's probably my mother. But so I wanted to dive into something quick as I took my usual Mets hat off. And the reason I did that is hard to believe it's been this year will be 20 years since 9/11. I don't know if you guys saw the schedule, but the Fox game of the week on 9/11 is going to be Mets and Yankees from Citi Field. And I got something from a customer of mine the other day that I've been looking for 20 years. So I'm going to wear that tonight.
Oh, very nice.
That's beautiful.
I have seen the one with the Yankee logo in it forever. I have not seen the one with the Met logo in it. He got it for me. He was in the city. So we're going to rock this one tonight. And if all works out and COVID goes away, I will hopefully be sitting with the 7-line army in center field for that game on 9/11. Rock this one tonight.
I like that.
That'd be amazing.
Still watching because I heard the feedback.
Yeah, he's watching. He's watching. As always, he's watching.
Good luck Sunday, Joey, or Saturday, whichever day the Colts are playing.
Wow, it'll probably get a little reaction. I think I just heard your voice, but yeah, we're excited. The Browns, Colts, Bucks, Bears.
Bears, yeah.
He just yelled, "Good luck, Cleveland." So
Yeah, I love how we beat Pittsburgh to get the right to play Pittsburgh.
Frick Pittsburgh, man. I'm tired of Big Ben and Tomlin and those guys.
Me too.
Before
we dive into baseball, I want to ask you guys something. And Alex and I were talking all during this. Hey, Tones, how'd you like that final score from the Sugar Bowl?
It was unexpected, honestly. It wasn't one. It wasn't one that a lot of people thought it would end that way. Personally, myself, I didn't think it would end that way. I perhaps had a little wager the other way. I thought Clemson had the game, but Ohio State came to play, and they proved that although they only played 6 games, they really did deserve to be there, which I think we did talk about last time, that they did deserve to be there. Last time we got a chance to talk. Lopsided score, but maybe Justin Fields is having some draft scouts rethink who the top number 1 rated QB is in the draft. Although I think Lawrence will be the choice at the end of the day. It's going to be interesting to see how their careers play out.
Unless the rumored number 1
Urban Meyer
is Urban Meyer to take over in Jacksonville. He'll take Justin Fields.
Oh, yeah.
So I know we started with football because, listen, I'm still jacked up about last Friday night. But let's dive into what we came to talk about, and that is the MLB Hotstove. As I said, we are 42 days from pitchers and catchers. The second greatest day of the season. That's not opening day. So I'd ask you guys off camera where you wanted to start. And Alex made a good point. Let's run with who we all believe the New York Mets would be in on hardcore. And that is George Springer, who, according to a lot of sources on MLB today, I'm actually pulling up the MLB app on my phone. It seems that Toronto is looking to add George Springer to that young core. Now let's talk about that lineup. Kevin Biggio, Vladdy, Bo Bichette, and Springer. That's dangerous. That's very dangerous. Tone, I'm going to start with you. Do you think if they add George Springer, that shifts the balance in the American League East?
I don't think it shifts the balance necessarily, no, but I do think it does increase the Blue Jays' chances of winning that division and perhaps even coming out of the AL. Obviously, last year their big splash was Hyun-Jin Ryu to bolster their pitching staff, and they gave him a Cy Young candidate year in and year out in Ryu. So now if they had a guy like George Springer, that's going to put those young guys matched up with the veteran and make that lineup that much more daunting than it already is. But like I said, I think that East has a little too much star power for the Blue Jays at their young age. I think when they grow into their shell, perhaps a little bit more, they'll be able to compete. But I don't know. We've seen veterans get added to other young lineups or teams like Rondon to the Angels, and that really have no impact. So I'm not sure if it's going to jump off the page crazy if it does happen. I'd like to move for the Blue Jays, but you still got a long road ahead. I know the Rays got rid of a lot of guys, but the Rays every offseason get rid of people. Then you have the Yankees, and the Red Sox are due to bounce back. So I think it'll be interesting. The Blue Jays could be a top team in that division, but I wouldn't necessarily put them as the favorites.
Okay. And I agree with you. When I say balance of power, I mean more you have to worry more about Toronto than before.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. You got to worry about them a little more for sure. That gives them a guy who could, put up 40 homers a year, drive in over 100 runs, and make some great plays in the outfield, and also give a team World Series leadership. So if, he did go over there, maybe talk to those young guys between him and Ryu in their winning ways and their veteranships, I think that, it'll pay dividends.
So, Alex, I want to take the same question, a different angle with you. Would adding George Springer make the Blue Jays the most exciting team in the American League East?
I think from a certain perspective, yes, just because of all the young talent they have, and you got a guy who's in his prime in terms of Springer joining that possible lineup. So they would definitely be exciting. As far as like the most exciting, possibly. I mean, I got to kind of see what happens with the Rays and what Boston does as well too, and obviously the Yankees. But there definitely would be like a marquee team to watch, just because of that splash landing that if they were to hit Springer.
Oh, I agree. I think Springer would be the big splash that Toronto hasn't had for many, many years. On top of that, their rotation was pretty good last year. Your brother just put Field of Dreams 2 starring Justin Fields on the YouTube feed.
You know what else I just thought of too?
What?
We forgot about the Orioles. We haven't mentioned the Orioles and how good the AL East is. These guys are powerhouses in Baltimore. We can't forget about these guys.
I kind of put Baltimore in the same category as the Marlins, although the Marlins went to the playoffs last year.
Hey, they got the Cubs out, man.
So let's jump from one team that wears blue to the other, and that is the Chicago Cubs. And I got to ask you, they non-tender Schwarber. There is more rumors heating up that Chris Bryant's going to be traded. And then they sent Darvish to San Diego you're more into the farm systems with other teams than I am, because I could tell you the Mets farm system left, right, and center. So I'm going to start with the White Sox fan and ask him, what? What are the Cubs thinking? Because then I'm going to let Tone go off in just a minute.
From an outsider looking in, it was definitely shocking, especially when you look at that core. Obviously, Bryant, Rizzo, Baez, Contreras, who's potentially on the trading block. It's really shocking because I think that they're still in their window to win. But now that you give up Darvish, who, as far as I'm concerned, was your ace, I don't really know. From what I'm hearing and what I've read is that there's no money available, and I kind of find that hard to believe when they basically print money under Wrigley Field. So I'm at a loss for words. As far as I'm concerned right now, the White Sox are now team one in Chicago, from my perspective. I was kind of hoping for the White Sox and the Cubs to be competitive at the same time, which may still happen. But with Kyle Davies as your new middle of rotation guy, is that the guy who you're going to go to? That's just how I look at it.
And I agree with you. I have been shaking my head at what they're doing there. So Tone, being the resident Cub fan, what is your feelings on where your team is going this offseason?
Obviously, when we seen Theo Epstein leave the Cubs, we knew, turning of the page was occurring. We knew that a change was occurring, and we knew that rebuild was probably in the near future. However, I don't think people thought it would be to this extent. And I don't think people thought it would happen perhaps this abruptly, maybe a season down the line and see what happens and, give this team one more chance. I mean, they still would have had a rotation consisting of Yu Darvish, Kyle Hendricks going into this year, which is a pretty damn good 1-2 punch. And then they would have still had, you never know if you get Baez and Bryant production, Wilson Contreras and Victor Caratini is a pretty good 1-2 catching battery, mate. So, and then you obviously have Anthony Rizzo, and then you got a couple of other guys. The Cubs, if they would have kept Kyle Schwarber, they kept a lot of these pieces, they would have had a chance to compete in a down NL Central. The Reds lost Trevor Bauer, obviously, and, they're going to lose some other pieces there as well. The Cardinals haven't really added anything, and then, Pittsburgh's down. In my opinion, Milwaukee just never gets the pitching to be too effective. The Cubs still had a mini window, as Alex said, to win, and they kind of closed that window a year early. In my opinion, I would have told Theo, hey, continue to try and win this year, man. Go out there, play around, go out there and try and win this year. If it's not working at the deadline, then we'll abort the mission. But the fact of the matter is they blew it up now, and, they didn't get one single pitching prospect back in that Padres trade. That was a little tough to see. Not one top 10 prospect in that Padres trade to mention. A lot of 17 and 18-year-olds, so you have to hope that one of them could turn into a big player. I'm actually excited about Davies, the veteran pitcher we got in return. Obviously a downgrade from Darvish, but that does say, hey, the Cubs are still trying. Davies and Hendricks, that's not terrible. Davies was pretty good last year, but man, I just have a sick feeling in my stomach, and man, this whole David Ross thing to this point has just not turned out as planned.
No, I got you, and I got to be honest with you. The move to send Darvish to San Diego was shocking to me. Did I think they would move him? No, I honestly didn't. When all that stuff came out, I was shocked that they moved him.
Yep.
And you're talking about a down NL Central. Remember, Raisel Iglesias was traded to Anaheim.
Yep.
So he's now out there trying to close games to get Mike Trout back to the postseason.
And that's another great example of how the Central's down. The fact of the matter is, too, Yu Darvish is a very team-friendly deal in terms of pitcher value in baseball the next 3 years, too. He had 3 years, $59 million left. I know that's still a lot of money.
Pitcher.
Right, I know that's still a lot of money, for people like us. But
exactly.
For a pitcher in baseball, that is kind of not a lot for one of the top pitchers, especially coming off the Cy Young type of season, too. So, I mean, just the fact that we let up Caratini in that deal, too, a pretty good young catcher, and to not even get a young arm back in return, it just puzzles me a little bit. I do like the Davies move, as I mentioned, though, because we could always trade him at the deadline for more prospects if the season is going south.
Which one do you think they hold on to out of the big boppers they have, besides Rizzo? Because they're going to have to hold on to at least one other player.
I think Contreras is as good as gone. I would say that Wilson Contreras is probably on his way out the door out of the big boppers, and that's sad to see. I really thought at one point in time Wilson was going to be the Cubs catcher for, perhaps the rest of his career. I kind of knew Bryant eventually. I think Bryant's out too. I kind of expected that eventually. Whenever you have Bryant, Baez, Rizzo, all these guys, one of the key cogs has to leave. I never thought Contreras would be this close to he is out the door. And I think it's just a matter of when and not if on Wilson Contreras at this point.
Where is Contreras potentially going to land? Does anybody know? Or is that really not out there yet?
I don't think there's been, people guessing and guesstimating. I don't think he's perhaps been tied to any rumors yet. I know they've been saying Contreras trade talks have been heating up, and he's an interesting trade target for teams because Cubs asking price is probably high on him, really high. And if you're a team out there, he's had up and down consistency. Do you go for him, or are you going to give up the farm? What do you do for a guy like Wilson Contreras? I could see the Mets, or him and McCann would be a nice little.
Him and McCann would be nice, but they're not going to invest $40 million in McCann and then dump the farm system into getting Contreras.
I forgot the DH probably ain't happening all around anymore, huh?
Which is why I said something to Alex with the Springer thing, which is why I think the Mets are going to make the deal for Lindor. Because unfortunately, the cornerstone the corner with no DH, the cornerstone of that deal will be Dominic Smith. Because you cannot trade Pete Alonso. You can't.
Right. No.
The fan base will riot. I mean, one of my Christmas gifts was a onesie for the baby due in June that's Alonso and 20 on the back.
Why would you get rid of Alonso anyway? Like that's he's a franchise player.
I know, and I'm not saying they will, but that's where the logjam is. Unless you find a way to move Dominic Smith to the outfield full time to play left field, which not a bad move, but to get Francisco Lindor, I think it's going to take him, J.D. Davis, Brandon Nimmo, and some young pitching. But they make that move, and Ahmed Rosario. But they have to make that move contingent upon him signing a deal. Because you can't mortgage your best clutch hitter.
Would you give him 5 years, 6 years?
He's 26. I'd give him 7 or 8.
Oh, okay. Makes sense.
Yeah, I'd give him 7 or 8. And then your defense is really set because you move Jimenez to second, McNeil stays at third, and Polar Bears at first. So your infield's still pretty good. I don't want to lose Dominic Smith. I mean, how many games did he win you in fantasy, Tone?
A lot, and he propelled me to second place in one of the weirdest fantasy seasons there were. So I'm very happy, and I have a couple of Dominic Smith rookie autographs I'm hanging on to as well and watching those climb in value. I'm a card collector, and Dominic Smith was one of the highest profited young player cards last year. So he's on the rise, both not only in production on the field, but in value off the field.
I agree. And, just to dive in more into what my boys are doing, because we all thought when the $14 billion man bought the team, they were going to throw money around like it was water. Now, having Sandy Alderson at the helm and adding the GM, and his name, I'm forgetting his name. Jared Porter.
Yep.
Who was, by the way, in Boston with Theo. He was in Arizona when LaRusso was helping run the front office. So he's a baseball guy. Porter's going to want to put together a team that's going to win for years. So I don't know. I think Lindor's the move. I really think they're going to make it. I think after that, it's going to be Jackie Bradley because Springer's going to end up in Toronto. Bless you. Sorry, my son sneezed. So yeah, I really think they're going to make the deal for Lindor. I really do. It's starting to look that way.
So you're okay with letting Springer go then?
If it's Lindor and Jackie Bradley, I'm okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the other thing I wanted to get to is a very simple question, and I don't normally use this word, but who the hell do the San Diego Padres think they are?
They're the Yankees, I guess. Now they erased their name, and now they're saying we're the New York Yankees, and we can afford for everybody and trade for everybody. But honestly, you have to love what they're doing. I mean, in terms of going for it, I liked what the White Sox did with Lance Lynn, and then the Padres said, "Excuse me, kind sirs, we're going to go out and get Blake Snell. Excuse me again, kind sirs, we're going to get you, Darvish." I mean, off-season winners of perhaps the past decade since I could remember. When's the last time two big pitchers landed on that team for not that big of a haul? I mean,
no,
nothing. Peanuts, pennies on the dollar.
They're the Stanton trade twice over.
Yeah, yes, and they still have young talent.
That's why they can do it, because most of their core is not making a ton of money.
I realized just the other day, because it was his birthday, Tatis is only 22 years old. Insanity. 22.
Wow. Sandy, I mean, listen, him and Machado on the left side of that infield are phenomenal. Listen, I enjoy Tatis. You and I had that conversation, Alex, back during the season. The guy that I think will be the biggest thing, especially with Clevenger's injury, I think Blake Snell was a must. Did Clevenger have Tommy John?
He did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
How many years does Blake Snell have left on his deal?
I think he signed a 3-year deal, so I think 2.
So that means in his free agent year, they're going to have Clevenger, Darvish, and Blake Snell at the top of the rotation. That ain't cool.
The young kid too, if he pans out, right? Mackenzie Gore,
and then there's who was
Paddock.
the one? Who?
Pat wasn't it like Paddock or something like that?
Chris Paddock. Yeah. The one that said you can only be rookie. It's great to be rookie of the month. I want to be rookie of the year, and then he got 1 vote.
Yeah.
He did, and he lost to Alonso, so I can say that. So San Diego is building a juggernaut, but here's something that may happen in the next couple of days. DJ LeMahieu may end up with the Dodgers.
I heard about that. That guy, talk about the rich getting richer. It's just this offseason, I feel like it's been a crazy offseason because you've kind of had basketball starting at the same time. Football's kind of been heating up. So a lot of this baseball talk is kind of sweeping under the rug in terms of a sports perspective. But there's a lot of hot stove brewing up, and, it's a lot of big names still out there available.
No, and the thing about LeMahieu is you're basically trading out Justin Turner for DJ LeMahieu.
To upgrade, it's like it's like evolving a Pokemon,
Evolving a Pokemon.
And I've heard some subtle rumors that they're going to try and go after as hard as he may be to acquire Trevor Bauer, just because of what San Diego's doing.
Oh my gosh!
I don't think Bauer's going to end up in LA.
I don't think so either. But I mean, I know that I've heard like under the radar rumors that they're trying to do whatever they can to kind of reel him in, because Los Angeles South and San Diego is spending big money, or not spending big money, but acquiring big talent.
Yeah, and that's just it. San Diego's tired of being the doormat in the National League West. That's why they're doing it. I honestly think Bauer's going to end up in an American League city. I don't know which one yet.
I think he's going to the Angels.
That would be huge for them, especially if they're adding Iglesias in the trade.
Yep, that would be incredible. And I actually just did some reading on Blake Snell's contract, guys. He actually has 3 years for only $30 million left.
Wow.
$10 million. So the Rays had him for 3 more years at $10 million a damn season. Freaking ask Tom Brady for some money. Do something. Like, how do you get rid of this guy in his prime?
Tom Brady for some money.
I'm sorry. I loathe for the Tampa Bay Rays baseball fans because they have to go through this every offseason, and it's not fair. It's just not fair.
How many former Cy Youngs take a contract of $10 million a year?
To stay in a city, he pretty much took this big pay cut, like Alex said, took $10 million a year, and they pretty much said, "Oh, thanks for bringing us to the World Series, and don't let the door hit you in the butt."
That's crazy. I mean, his contract is 1 year of DeGrom's money.
I mean, we thought, we were sitting here saying, "Oh, you Darvish, 3 years, $59 million is a friendly penny deal." Combined, they got these guys combined for $29 million a year, pretty much. It's like They pretty much pay $29 million a year for Snell and Darvish. That's what some teams pay for a top pitcher. And they got two of the, yeah, exactly. And they got two 1Bs. I think they're both 1Bs. I don't, and they could be 1As if Snell's on his A game or Darvish. I'd consider them all the time at least 1Bs. But man, it's incredible what they did.
I listen. I got to give the front office in San Diego a lot of credit for the moves they have made and the ones they're going to continue to make. So let's switch gears a little bit and we're going to talk some under the radar stuff, like the fact that apparently the New York Yankees are on Yasiel Puig.
Oh, splash landing, boys. Splash landing.
The Yankees, Red Sox, Astros, Marlins, and Orioles. I didn't know Puig was only 30, by the way.
So everyone in that division?
Yankees, Red Sox, Astros, Marlins. So, yeah, most of the AL East, the Marlins and the Astros, who are that's to fill the George Springer spot. I think that one makes no sense whatsoever because they already have a couple of guys who only hit right-handed and hit only home runs. If they want to strike out 700 times as a team each year, that's cool. Here's another one, and this is going back to my boys. Looks like they're in on Brad Hand.
That's a big one.
Yeah, I listen, having watched Hand because of my Cleveland family and hearing about him, a back end of the bullpen with Familia, if he can get right, Edwin Diaz, who, last year striking out 18 dudes per 9 innings, and Brad Hand, that sounds pretty good. And adding Trevor May.
Yeah, Brad Hand, we've seen what he could do several places now, and that guy, when he's pitching on his A game, he's lights out in the back of the bullpen, man.
Where do you think, and I'll start this one with you, Alex, where do you think Liam Hendriks lands?
Oh, I mean, he's been rumored with the White Sox, but I've heard a lot of rumblings as well with him associated with the Toronto Blue Jays. So it seems like the Blue Jays are the number one. I know the Sox are kind of in the mix. Whether they're serious about it, I'm not 100% sure. So, I mean, I probably would see him go into Toronto at this point.
Yeah, he was in Dunedin in the last couple of days at their facility. So, yeah, I mean, this is, and it's just getting warmed up because all the top tier free agents have not signed yet. Now, let's go to a different angle on this. Do we see this being like, 2018? Or what year did Machado and Harper go in January? Was that 2019?
Yeah, that was 2019.
Do we see this being another 2019? Do we see Springer and Bauer and even maybe Hendricks not signing until late this month, early next month?
Yeah, I could see it happening. I mean, that's a new trend in baseball. We've seen it not only this past offseason, but the past several off seasons now, where guys are, not in a hurry to sign. They don't really care if it goes into spring training, and they don't really mind some of them if it goes into the regular season. We've seen Alex Cobb and Yu Darvish and Craig Kimbrell and Dallas Keuchel push the pedal to the metal and really draw this thing out. Some of them, like Keuchel and Kimbrell and Alex Cobb, not even signing until season starts. So, I think it's going to be a typical modern baseball offseason where it's really late January into the end of the month of February where these guys are still getting pulled off the streets.
Alex, what about you? You think this is becoming a trend, or is this just because of the agents holding out for every dime possible?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think that the players are really not in a rush because they know they're going to get their money one way or the other. But they're probably enjoying their vacations, probably prepping for the season. They're letting really their agents handle all the dirty work. And then whenever it comes down to the point where they're going to sign a fat deal, they'll just show up or do it virtually or whatever, however they're doing it these days. So
listen, the other thing I'm doing right now too is MLB.com has put out the 2021 all trade rumor team.
Huh.
So we've already talked about one of them. We already talked about Contreras. Here's one. Brandon Belt from San Francisco.
San Francisco.
Who needs a first baseman that you could sit and say, okay, this team needs to upgrade at first base, guaranteed? Not the Cubs, not the White Sox, not the Mets.
Cleveland?
That's why I think Dominic Smith's the keystone of the Lindor trade.
Okay.
Because Santana went to Kansas City. What about Brandon Belt to Anaheim and moving Pujols to DH full time?
I was literally just going to say the Angels because they don't have anybody there. Pujols, is getting a little old. I was literally just going to say the Angels. Great minds think alike, my friend.
What does that do to Ohtani-san?
I mean, Ohtani, at this point, they're really – I feel like they're stuck. They're stuck because, they want to develop him in a couple different ways, and they really don't have a definitive way yet, and they're going to keep working with him because he's a project, and they'll see where it ends up. But he's an exciting player. I think that he still has, DH. I would just keep him DH and then work on him if you think he could still potentially turn into that starter. So I would just focus him at DH, and he's projected to be start of the Angels mix. I last time I heard, he's going to be one of their starters to begin the season pitching. So perhaps keep him at DH and focus him on rehabbing his arm.
Well, I got to be honest with you, and I'm going to taper this way to you, Alex. When I went through this, I was shocked at Brandon Belt, but then I saw something. Buster Posey, Johnny Cueto, Brandon Belt, Kevin Gausman, and Brandon Crawford are all free agents after this year.
Wow.
Basically, a lot of that core of those 3 titles in 5 years for San Francisco are going to be free agents at the end of the year. Can you think of another landing spot for Brandon Belt?
Are we thinking contender here or an up and comer?
Either.
Huh.
I think I could tap in, and I think I might have another.
Go ahead.
I could see Colorado maybe, get in a little Brandon Belt action. They could use the night. He'd hit the ball pretty damn good in that ballpark, and they don't really have. I know they had Ian Desmond, but I think he opted out last year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And they never really had a full-time fill-in at that first base position. So not that it's needed, but I could see, Colorado get him Belt and then perhaps traded him at the deadline, or maybe, making, a wild card magical run. You never know.
Alex, what do you think of Arizona as a fit for Brandon Belt?
That was actually a team that I was thinking of right now because I cannot think of who Arizona's current first baseman is.
So there, I was actually going to say the Marlins, especially if they can keep Starling Marte. He's a veteran bat. Last I knew it was Peter O'Brien playing first base for them.
I know they had Aguilar, but I think he's gone.
Yeah. That brings me to the other side of the diamond and the hot corner. Instead of Lindor, well, if you had a guess, and the Mets are going to pull the trigger because it was very widely put out there by Colorado, the team they want to engage on the Nolan Arenado talks is the New York Mets. Would you pull the trigger on Arenado, or would you pull the trigger on Lindor? If you're the Mets GM, Alex, you first.
I'm taking Arenado. That glove is too sick and he can hit. For me, I got to go with Arenado. I mean, if you guys land Lindor, by all means, you're not getting a C player at all. But for me, the guy could pick it at third and he could hit left and right. So I got to go Arenado.
Tone, what about you?
This is a tough question, and both are really good ball players. You can't go wrong with either, but I'm going to go with Francisco Lindor because I think that he perhaps fits the Mets mold a little better in terms of roundness, and I think that he's a couple years younger perhaps. I think he's 27, and I think Arenado might be 30, if not 30, maybe close to 30, but I think Lindor is a couple years younger, so I think that helps his value there. And You can't go wrong with either. Arenado would be dynamic. His glove is sick. He's on, Web Gems or whatever the heck it is every night. And he'd be a tremendous fit as well. The Mets love their third baseman too. They've had some historic ones, but I think Lindor fits lately. I think they've liked those type players that could steal bases, hit home runs, kind of do the whole 10 yards. So I think Lindor.
And like you said, either one is a great thing to have. Now, Arenado actually turns 30 on the 16th of April. And Francisco Lindor he will be 28. I'm sorry. This coming November. He'll be 28. So both guys really still in the prime of their career. Both defensive and offensive wizards there. As much as I would love Lindor just because of the Cleveland connection with me, if they get Arenado, they move Jimenez to short, who I think is going to be great for many years to come. So it's you're right. It's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. It's a huge move for a team to make either way. I don't think Arenado is going to cost that much because the Mets will just say we'll pick up his salary and Colorado will have to take it. All right, who else is on this little list here? Believe it or not, Starling Marte is on the all trade rumor list too, by the way.
Every year now, maybe? I feel bad for him.
I do too, but listen, it's nice to be wanted.
Yeah, that's never a bad thing.
So here's another one. There's 2 pitchers they have on here. The market right now is pretty thin for pitchers, if you ask me. With Bauer still out there, him being the marquee, obviously coming off the Cy Young. The relievers in Hendricks and Hand are nice to look at. If you were to make a deal for a starter out of these 2, between Luis Castillo and Sonny Gray, let's say for the White Sox, which one would you rather add to your rotation, Alex?
I probably got to go Castillo just because he's a little younger. He's kind of a flame ball thrower for sure. I know he's a little, like I mentioned earlier, he's just a little young. Still needs kind of a little bit of work. But I think he could probably be the potential face of your franchise going forward. Obviously as Giolito kind of get older, Keiko is getting older. Lance Lynn might be retiring here sometime in the next couple of years. So I probably got to go Castillo.
On that note, where's Kopech? Is he back this year?
To my understanding, yes, but I've not heard any official word just yet. But I think to my understanding, players and front office seem to think that he is all in. So I'm keeping fingers crossed at this point.
Wait, he's dynamic. I love watching him go. Tom, which one of the 2 would you rather look to get? The KG veteran Sonny Gray or the young fireball and Luis Castillo?
If I'm the White Sox, I would personally get Sonny Gray because they have their fair share of young arms already, which isn't a bad thing, but that could go either way. They got their Reynaldo Lopez, they got their Michael Kopech, they got their Dylan Ceases of the world as it is. Why not add a veteran arm in there? The White Sox are ready to win now. To me, Sonny Gray gives you the best chance to win right now, although Castillo's ERA, I think, was better last year and strikeouts perhaps better. Sonny Gray's veteranship, I don't think he would cost as much in a trade either. I think Luis Castillo, as Alex said, his age, he's younger, and he's got perhaps more upside than Sonny Gray, so I don't think he would cost as much Sonny Gray as Castillo would. I'd go for Sonny Gray. He's been in winning scenarios before as too, so he knows how to win. I think for the White Sox, either one would fit great in the clubhouses. Castillo would be, he'd get along great personality-wise, but Sonny Gray would be the veteran that I think would put them right there at the next level with the Lance Lynn type arm.
No, and I agree. And if it's me, I'm with Alex. I would go for Sonny Gray or for Castillo. I can see the Sonny Gray move being easier and not costing as much from the farm system, and definitely no major league talent. But and I understand the veteran arm. listen, if you're a rotation like the White Sox, though, I think you need the younger arm just because Giolito isn't getting to be an older pitcher. Dallas Keuchel has been in the league a while now. And Lance Lynn, the big piece they already added, God, how old is Lance Lynn?
I want to say he's like 34, maybe 33, 34, roughly.
So he's been around a while.
Wow.
All right. So the couple more spots I wanted to hit, and one of them actually that was being talked about in MLB today, Tone, and impacts you, is that the West Coast Empire is looking into trading for Chris Bryant.
It's going to happen eventually. I mean, he's not going to be here. I just don't want to get pennies on the dollar. Whatever we get for him, it better be a prized package, and it better be full of great young talent. And if not, we might as well not get rid of him. But I know that it's coming soon. I'm pretty prepared for it, and it's pretty sad. A guy who was once MVP and a guy who was an integral part of our World Series championship run in our dynasty, our mini dynasty. It's just inevitable. As I said with Wilson Contreras, it's just a matter of if and not when with this guy.
Tone, do you think the whole thing with Bryant is because they know he won't re-sign because of the labor dispute they had?
I think what's tricky with Chris Bryant is A, the labor dispute, and B, as Alex said, I think the Cubs are just crying broke. Even though they have money, I just don't think they want to pay anybody. I don't think it's the labor dispute issue. I think that it's just far more than that. It's not only Chris Bryant the Cubs are doing this with. They're plucking strings with everyone. They didn't want to pay Schwarber, so they non-tendered him, and then they're going to get rid of Contreras before he's up, for probably his biggest payday yet. And then Darvish, he's still cheap now, but they're just not paying people. After that Hayward thing, I think they're changing how they operate for a couple years. Although Hayward did help them win a World Series, that was obviously tall money. And I think they're just going to be careful where they throw that. But Bryant, he's going to be on the move. I don't think it's over the contract dispute, though. I just think that it's a new wave of the Cubs. This is who they are going to be for the next several years, sadly.
No, and I hear that. And Alex, your brother just asked a question, and I want to get some clarifications. Hopefully he's listening at the same time. Chris, your question was, does that make them vulnerable to accepting poorer offers than normal? Are you talking about players in general? Or are you talking about the Cubs with what they're going to look to do? So hopefully he answers in a second. He's watching on Periscope, by the way.
There you go. You know what? To attest to the Cubs, yes, they're sellers right now. But if you get yourself a decent package, you can be back in a couple of years because the Pittsburgh's got a ways to go. Cincinnati's got a way to go. Milwaukee kind of muddles. The only real team you have to worry about is St. Louis, and they really haven't spent much either. So to say that the Cubs are out entirely, I'm not at that point. I know that they're falling behind a little bit, but not willing to say like they're an entire rebuild at this point.
And that's why I think they even got Davies back, is because you never know. I mean, their roster, they still have Baez. As of now, they still have Bryant. As of now, they still have Contreras. As of now, they still have Rizzo. As of now, they still have Hayward. As of now, they still have a lot of guys. So, why not get Davies back, and why not try and contend in the Central? Like Alex said, and like I said before, just a lot of down teams in the Central, and a lot of down farms in the Central, not just teams and rosters right now, a lot of down farms. So if the Cubs could stockpile their farm, they could be back in 2022, 2023 at the top of that division.
That's a good point. And he did clarify, and he's talking about the Cubs taking offers for players as far as trade packages. Because they're not going to want to pay, are they going to take less in trade stock to get rid of these guys as opposed to trying to hit a home run with it? I think they're going to end up taking less for a lot of these dudes. And it's terrible what the Cub fans, you guys fill that place when they're garbage. And it's time for you to stop going. Look what we stopped going to Citi Field and they sold the team. So we got tired of it. And the richest Met fan in the world came in and said, "I'll write you a check. Here you go." To answer your brother's question, Alex, I'll take this one. I'll open up to you guys. I think it's going to poison the Cubs pretty hard because they're looking at their bottom line. They're saying, oh, well, selling this place out when we lose 100 games a year isn't good enough anymore. And they're going to just kind of willy-nilly it, a la Derek Jeter when he got to Miami. And they're going to end up parting with guys that he really can't part with. If I'm running the Cubs right now, there are 3 players I can't lose right now. I cannot lose Rizzo. I cannot lose Javier Baez. And who's the center fielder or the outfielder, the young one? Almora? I can't lose Almora either.
He's gone.
Where'd he go?
He's just gone. He got him and Schwarber left together.
They were both non-tendered. I didn't see that. So yeah, to answer your brother, yes, Contreras then would be the third one. Your catcher, your first baseman captain, and your shortstop. You cannot lose them. And you got to trade Bryant because Bryant's not going to re-sign after all the crap with his service time.
Yeah,
and I don't blame him.
I'm interested to see where he goes. If he does, in fact, get moved, like, is it the Nationals? Because I know the Nationals have been the name that's been kind of circulating, have been correlated with him. But I don't know that the Nationals are going to be the perfect suitors for him, I guess.
Arizona. He's going to the West Coast. He's from Vegas.
Right.
Look for Arizona. Look for the Dodgers. God help us, San Diego.
Where are you going to put Machado then?
Put Bryant in the outfield.
Well, that's a fair point. Wow. I keep forgetting that they put him in the outfield randomly at times.
Yeah, he played right field against the Mets a couple of years ago.
And I think he's played left field too, right, Tones?
Yep, he's played left field. He's played center field. He's played every outfield position. He's pretty tall, pretty lengthy. I don't think he's played center often, but I know he's played there before.
I don't know why they had to screw him.
I mean,
I really don't. I don't know why they had to screw him.
Look, they've screwed a couple people. They don't care who it is. They screwed Joe Madden now. They screwed Theo. Now they're going to start screwing players. They got their ring, and they're building their little monopoly. They got their couple Starbucks. They got their hotels. They got their fancy schmancy $30 freaking T-shirts at every corner. They're building product. That's all they care about. They won their ring, and like you said, they'll sell eventually, and we'll see what happens.
Mike, I'm sorry, really quickly. I know that this is your show, but Tones, I got a question for you.
Go ahead.
Does this put a sour taste in your mouth, or like your, people that who are Cub fans? Does this upset you guys, or do you guys kind of knew that this was coming, or was this more of a shock?
It upset me. It started upsetting me last year when we got rid of Joe Madden. That's when it kind of all started. I mean, getting rid of Joe Madden is, I know a lot of people had their doubts on some of his late game management, but this guy brought us a World Series. This guy brought us to the playoffs. This guy brought us winning records every season he was here. So right when we got rid of Madden, I was gaining, I was getting more skeptical. The next thing you know, boom. The Theo stuff happened this year, and right when that happened, I was like, wait a minute, and now we all have a sour taste in our mouth because I think that we think, we still have a winning team and winning product and, capable of winning. Made it to the playoffs last year, and it was ugly, but, the Cubs are a big city market. Why can't we spend our money like, these New York and LA teams do? And it's just bad when, a team that once had some of the best young talent in baseball, like Bryant, Baez, Rizzo, at the time Russell, at the time Schwarber, at the time Almora, Contreras, you name it. The Cubs at one point in time, Carl Edwards Jr., boom, they just had so much young talent. And the fact of the matter is it's over. Their dynasty's over. The franchise that the fans have come to love is over. Schwarber jerseys filled the seats. You had Almora shirts in the seats. You have Bryant shirts all over. You have Joe Madden. There's tons of Joe Madden shirts out there. It's just not the same team. It's not the same team we grew to love.
Not to sound like this, you sound like a Met fan.
Well, that makes me feel not good, man. That makes me.
I don't blame you.
No, not taken like that, but man, yeah, I know you guys been hurting, and it just I'm hurting too. I'm with you.
I know. And listen, because I made that comment, I feel for you. I really do. The dismantling of Chicago Cubs. I have told people this left, right, and center. If they had played anybody else in 2016 than the Cleveland Indians, I would have been rooting for the Cubs to win the World Series. And Chris is now laughing. Your brother is laughing at him. Or he's laughing at the "you sound like a Met fan" line. One of the two. But yeah, I can say the same thing. And when, Dan Murphy leaves and goes to the Nationals and almost wins an MVP, and, losing David, losing Matt Harvey, losing Steven Matt's not developing, Syndergaard last year with TJ, the only thing I've had to hang my hat on the last couple of years is a rookie of the year and a guy in the best pitcher in the game. So I feel it, Tone. I feel you. I really do. And I commiserate with you and I sympathize with you. But they've got so much left. They don't have to, and you're right, they don't have to move Bryant now. They can take one more run at it. I honestly believe Bryant will get done at the deadline. I don't think he's going to get dealt before the season. Bryant's going to be this year's Manny Machado.
I thought the exact same thing too. I think at the deadline, it's over.
So we're pushing an hour. So let's dive into the last subject I wanted to, because we're going to do this again once spring training starts, once we get some more of these guys signed. Let's pick one free agent that's not George Springer. So, or a trade that we would like to see happen, not for our teams, but if it's one that you want to see your team make, throw it out there. You have names like Hendricks, Josh Hader. You have all the guys I mentioned, Arenado, Lindor. They're saying the DH that people may want to trade for is JD Martinez. So if in your world, and we've done this before, one move, one player, Tone, we're going to start with you. What do you want the Cubs to do for one season, for this season, not for, don't think long-term, this season? What would you like to see?
I would love to see the Cubs bring in an arm, whether it be a bullpen or a starting pitcher. And I mean it would never happen, but that Milwaukee Hader fellow would look pretty nice. But a realistic move, I mean, just bring me a little Jake Odorizzi action. That's all I'm asking for, a little Jake Odorizzi action. I think that'd be nice for the Cubs, and it's, not far stretch of the imagination. He would pair well with Hendricks and Davies. I think that would be a nice fit for Cubs fans and Odorizzi, and he's still playing in a big city market.
And I got to tell you, adding Odorizzi to those guys that you already have, that's not a bad top three to have. No, you don't have the flashy ace. But listen, there are a lot of teams that have made postseason runs without a flashy ace and a lot of quality arms. So no, I like that move. I like Odorizzi. Alex, what about you? What's the one thing you want the White Sox to get?
So I know they're somewhat decent in terms of starting rotation. They got some older veterans, some guys who are kind of developing still. And I know that it's looking like they're not going to be able to bring back Alex Colomé. They may or may not be in the mix anymore for Liam Hendricks, who was with the A's. But I'm gonna go with the guy that Tones just mentioned, Josh Hader. And I'm willing to probably give up Nick Madrigal and probably Dylan Cease.
Really?
Yeah, I'm willing to part ways with him. I'm not saying that I've given up on Dylan Cease, but I think the White Sox can get another young arm, can trade for another arm. But I would like to see Hader in the back end of that bullpen, and I think that would kind of be a lights out scenario, because if you can get 4, 5, 6, 7 innings from your stud rotation or semi decent rotation and have that on the back end, I think you're going to win some games that way, and win some close games and some games where you're definitely going to, mash out there too.
No, and listen, that's one thing you guys could use is the bullpen help. I love your rotation the way it is now, especially adding Lance Lynn. That's a nice veteran arm to go with Giolito and Dallas Keuchel. The one I want for the Mets, going back and forth, and it's not going to be one of the big ones. I would love, I said it before, I would love Brad Hand. You put him in the back of that bullpen to go with Edwin Diaz and with Trevor May. Listen, the Mets need a lefty in that bullpen. They let Chase and Shreve go. They brought Jerry Blevins back on a minor league deal. But Jerry Blevins hasn't pitched in 2 years. They need the lefty. Brad Hand would fit very nicely in there. He can exercise some of the demons from when he was pitching for Cleveland and he blew 2 saves in that series against the Mets. I think he would be the perfect piece for the back end of the bullpen for the Mets, especially with the issues they had last year. When you say that the 2 most consistent relievers the Mets had were Chase and Shreve and Seth Lugo, who they had to move into the rotation, that's a problem. So no, that's the one I would want for the Mets. But hang on one second. Anchor cuts me off at 55 minutes.
All good.
Yeah, no worries. No worries.
Okay, and we're back. I just had to save the one section. So we just broke down the 3 guys, the 3 moves we would make. So let's talk about what each of us have left in the hopper. Alex, what's coming up next for row 7? I know you did your end of year show, which I'm sorry I haven't gotten to yet, but I did love the NBA one with your brother. What do you got coming up next?
So as you mentioned earlier, we're going to do a playoff preview, AFC, NFC, kind of give a little, predictions, kind of, I guess you can say spoilers, what we expect, what could potentially shock us. So that's kind of what's coming up next on row 7 here Wednesday night.
So, I mean, you got so many irons in the fire, man, between Cardboard and Cracker Jacks made their comeback. The one that you and I did a while ago, which by the way was awesome. You got the Time Skew episodes that you're doing now that I've been on again. Thank you. You got Bucketeers, which is great for a Bucks fan. What else you got coming out soon?
Yeah, thanks. A little too much on the plate sometimes, but yeah, we got Wednesday, the Skew Zone. Actually, we're gonna be talking some playoff football, playoff previews on that. That's a lot of fun. That'll be fun. And then Bucketeers, we got pregame, postgame, weekly pods. We just added a couple crew members to the Bucketeers podcast, so we expanded to, now there's a good group of 5 of us, so that's pretty exciting. And then, as you said, Cardboard and Cracker Jacks is weekly again. You can catch us every week on either Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. We usually release our episode, and it's more centralized around crosstown baseball of Chicago. So excited to keep churning and keep chugging and staying busy.
Well, as far as Big Rican goes, this is episode number 97.
Oh, wow.
Well, we know
this weekend.
We know what's coming.
This weekend, I will have a Browns playoff preview on Sunday morning. And before it kicks off Sunday night, I will have the 2021 College Football Playoff National Championship game preview as Ohio State takes on the Alabama Crimson Tide, Hard Rock Stadium in Miami. Those are 98 and 99. I'm taking a week off to make sure it's done. And the week of my birthday, the week of the 21st of January, it will be a live event on all 3 spots. And I will get into the GOAT debate. And I'm going to tick a lot of people off. And I don't care. Because I have the research I have done, I have changed my mind on so many different things. It literally is 4 different documents on my laptop. All the stuff I've pulled off of there. I'll give you a highlight with one quote I'm going to use. And I said it to you off the air. The only thing Michael will have at the end of LeBron's career that's better is free throw percentage. That's it. But I have both sides of the debate because it's going to be more about how the debate is framed as opposed to the actual numbers.
Okay.
So I will let you guys know in advance when that's going to happen, but I would love to have you both on giving me garbage in the comments. I would love that.
I mean, the NBA ain't even the NBA anymore, man. These guys don't even play defense. Come on, man.
No, they don't. And that's part of it. That's part of it. I
You
promise.
know, I hate the NBA sucks now. These dudes throw up 3-pointer. I was watching the Bulls game the other night. Worst product ever. Milwaukee. I want to say they played Milwaukee. Milwaukee threw up 3 after 3 after 3. I was ready to go to bed. I'm like, when's this game going to get exciting? When's the fun stuff? These damn dudes are throwing up 3. This ain't even basketball. This is more of a Harlem Globetrotters 3-point competition on the court every night. It's really pathetic to see what the NBA's come to.
This is going to sound extremely biased. Turn on my boys. They play defense. They play hands up. They dominate.
Garland's a good kid, man.
Oh, I love Darius. And Sexton's been sick. Okoro, even though he's been hurt, has been great. Andre Drummond's been on a mission, and Larry Nance is hitting threes.
I'm a Larry Nance guy. I got to tell you that right now.
Hold on.
There it is. Yep. That's
wow. Larry Nance.
My 2 favorite players all time on the Cavaliers. Him and Delly.
Deladova.
Hey, I got a picture. I'll post it sometime soon. I went to a game in 2015, LeBron's first year back, and there's a picture of me standing next to a picture of Delly. That is how bad I wanted that picture. So yeah, episode 100, 2 weeks. I'm going to take a week off, and that way I can make sure it's all done, and it's going to start probably about 8:30 at night, and I will go probably longer than this, hour and a half, just to make sure I get any questions. I'll answer them.
Wow.
Smack talk, fine. I'll take it, but nobody's going to change my mind. So Alex, where can we find Row 7 again?
You can find us on Twitter at Row 7 Podcast. You can find the podcast on Spotify, Apple, Google, Stitcher, Deezer, you name it. It's available. Yeah, we're definitely growing. I'm trying to enhance the brand. I'm redesigning. I'm taking some classes to redesign my logo because
Nice.
I'm expanding. I'm trying to grow personally. So I'm trying to bring some new stuff to the table. So I'm trying to line up interviews as well too. So Row 7 is going to make 2021, happen. We'll see.
P.S. I love the new kicks.
Oh, thank you. I've almost thought about doing like a completely entire different podcast on just like sneakers and the hunt and the pursuit and all that stuff like that. Because my brother and I are just
Your sneakerheads.
fiends for sneakers. Yeah,
Nice.
It's kind of a sad habit, but at least my wife supports it. So yeah.
That's what I feel with this.
There you go.
Tony, I want to show you the shirt I got on. She bought me that for Christmas.
Is she pregnant?
Yes, we got one due in June.
Hey, we'll have the Big Rican and Mini Rican podcast.
The Mini Rican's over on the couch.
Well, Mini or
The
Mini
Mini
Rican.
Rican. But yeah, the 7-line Army onesies, the I have a Michigan in my diaper onesie is here. And before I ask you wherever we can find it, Tone, I want to give a shout out to my friends in Chicago for Northwestern whooping Auburn.
Yeah, how about that? That was a fun bowl game to watch.
Great.
That could have propelled Pat Fitzgerald to the NFL.
I hope he doesn't leave.
He should be a lifer at Northwestern, man. He'd be mistaken if he left Northwestern.
Unless he took the Bears job.
Yeah.
No, he doesn't want to do that either. Trust me. Does not want to do that.
So, Tone, with your many irons in the fire, where can we find everybody?
You could find me at Tricky Tones BGTE. You could find fantasy football advice and what we're up to there at Timeskew Pod. And then you could find baseball news, specifically Chicago, and then memorabilia collecting and baseball news at Cracker Jacks Pod on both Twitter and Instagram. And then you could follow Buccateers, my personal Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast, and we're hoping to keep adding there. We're going to have hopefully more Buck interviews. I did a couple Buck interviews last year right after the draft with those rookies. So we're going to keep looking to make more Buccaneers connections and look to grow that show a little bit and hopefully have more great guests on.
And listen, if anybody's out there listening or watching and you want to get breakdown of your favorite team, listen to how Tone does it for the Bucks. He goes in depth with everything, and he knows the Buccaneers roster top to bottom and can tell you everything about almost every player. I'm sure there's guys at the back end of the 53 that not a lot of people know about.
Jeremiah Ledbetter.
You're throwing names out. I did that to somebody once. I said, pick a random number on the Mets, and I know the guy. They said 40, and I said Ambiorix Burgos, and they kind of just like went ashen.
I mean, that name right there alone is just like, wow. The fact that you remember how to say Ambi, I can't even say it, man. I mean, hats off to you.
So as always, Big Rig can be found, as all of us are proud members of the TimesQ Podcast Network, at timesq.com. Anchor, Breaker, Spotify, Google, Radio Public, and Pocket Casts. On all three of these, Facebook, Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope on Twitter. Twitter's at Big Rican on Sport. Gentlemen, it is a pleasure as always to talk the greatest game on the planet with you. I look forward to our next conversation. Let's say closer to the season. We get into everything we're going to get into once spring training is started. Hopefully, let's do this, that we get a full season. And gentlemen, I will talk to you soon. Have a good one. And by the way, for Monday, go Bucks. Take care, guys.
Take care.